I fell into journalism and to radio. I was doing case management, a lot of door-to-door social work for a community mental health center. And frankly, I was just burning out. My mother introduced me to public radio. I just loved it. I had this cockamamie idea that I talk to people. I could talk on the radio. And I started here as a fill-in intern, volunteer / reporter. I was terrible, but you could give me a tiny little piece and I could make it in an hour. So I learned the hard way, I guess, or maybe the right way about what my skills were on the radio, but it was not being a reporter. Radio Time started back in 1987 when we had interns. I would give them bus money. They would get on the bus, go to the Free Library of Philadelphia, go down into the basement and look through the files to get copies of news articles that then they would hop on the bus, come back and give to me. Of course, now you can put an intern in front of a computer. Boom, there's your research. I had done some interviews for Fresh Air, Voices in the Family. I started that show and had done some interviews there, so I knew a little bit about that. In the beginning, it was scary, but I remember the first interview I ever did, and I got through it. Not sure it was particularly good, and then I had the realization is I have to do this tomorrow, and then I have to do it again the next day. How to pace yourself, how to pick topics, how to figure out who the right guests, how to deal with controversial issues. To be honest with you, I really learned on the job. And I think I had a very forgiving audience and some very forgiving bosses as well. Many programs these days are more edited and packaged and put together, and when you're live, anything can happen, and it does. But on the other hand, you can have those really magic moments that you didn't anticipate, and there it is, and you get to talk about it or play with it. So I like that. Most days, an hour is spent talking about something, and I think in today's soundbitey world, that's pretty unusual. And I like to think the quality and depth of conversation sets us apart. I kind of joke that I do the homework now I didn't do in high school. There's a little bit of truth to that. I wasn't the greatest learner, and I have become, I think, a very good learner. I wouldn't do it if I didn't still love it. But when I get up in the morning at 5:30 to get in here bright and early, I'm excited to start the day and see what happens. I always prepare an interview, always knowing that may not work out, and maybe the better interview is the one you didn't prepare for, and that's the one you should do. When there's a good interview, it is the best feeling. It's just the best feeling, and mostly because that person was real and authentic, and they're on a book tour, but they were willing to be a real person on the show. Because oftentimes what they tell you is the thing you didn't anticipate, and it's really the heart of the interview. How much pleasure I get out of that. Well, thank you so much for this honor, for inducting me into the Hall of Fame here for the broadcast pioneers. I don't know if Paul Gluck is still here. Are you still here, Paul? No. Well, he was my boss, and I was thinking maybe we were indicted. I'm not sure. But anyone that's worked with Paul knows that it's always an adventure. He dragged me into television, which I will never forgive him for. Well, I have reached a certain age when I can actually look back over my life and my career and feel very lucky and feel very grateful, knowing that it's clear I didn't do this all by myself. I had a lot of help along the way. My parents were extraordinarily and ridiculously supportive. They seemed to think that everything I did was absolutely wonderful. And when I got in trouble in school, which was often, they just thought I was a very spirited young girl. My husband, Jim, who's over there, who often knows what I want and need before I do, gave me this great advice when I said I was thinking of going to graduate school in journalism, and he said, "You hate school. Go to WHYY, be a volunteer, get experience, you'll figure it out." And a couple years later, when I got my show, I asked our son Jesse, who was about 4 years old at the time, what I should call my radio show. And he said, without skipping a beat, 3 disgusting people. And I have tried to live up to that name in the last 30 years. And WHYY has really been my second family. They welcomed me, they nurtured me, they kicked my butt, they opened doors for me, and I will be eternally grateful. And I have special
feelings and fondness for the producers that I've had over the last 30 years, some of whom are here tonight over at table 16. Debbie Builder, John Ahrens, Trinae Nuri, Liz Fiedler, who couldn't be with us, and Mary Cummings Jordan, who's part of our interview team. So I am eternally grateful for them. I won't call them morons the way Paul Gluck did with his people. So thank you very much. They're extraordinarily dedicated. They work hard. They're creative. They're fun. They're spirited. And now that I'm officially a broadcast pioneer, which might be a euphemism for being really old, I'm inspired by the next generation of journalists that I see, and I know that I will be leaving our profession at some point in their very capable hands. Thank you very much.